The Papa Jeff's America program is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Thank you. If you'd like to buy Papa Jeff a cup of coffee, visit us on the web at support.papajeffusa.com. Papa Jeff's America, the talk radio podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. It's talk radio time from Houston, Texas, broadcasting around the country and around the world. Welcome to the Papa Jeff's America program. We're the talk radio podcast that discusses the stuff and things that you want to talk about. The talk radio podcast continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. Inspiring guests, insightful commentary, and what would a day be without Papa Jeff's classic old guy humor, right? So, here's the guy that has trouble seeing the big E on the eye chart. The guy that some would say has a unique sense of humor, and the guy that definitely has a face for radio. Here's Mr. Here We Go himself, PG the OG, Papa Jeff. Welcome to Papa Jeff's America. The Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. I'm Papa Jeff, and this is Papa Jeff's America. For us today, something special. Now, as most regular listeners of the Papa Jeff's America program are aware, when I was growing up through junior high and high school, I wanted to be on the radio. I wanted to be the guy playing the music and doing the talking. I love Morning Drive, the birth of the Boss radio format, Casey Kasem, Top 40, all that groovy stuff. Well, it was the 70s after all. I listened to a lot of talk radio too, and as time went on, one of my absolute favorites in talk was Ken Minyard on KABC Radio, AM 790. Ken is a Los Angeles radio broadcasting icon, best known for the #1 rated program, The Ken and Bob Show. Now, that position was quite a deal because LA radio was an ever-changing and fierce ratings market. I listened a lot. I was going to be that radio guy. I made demo air check tapes, recorded on-air commercials, did my own morning traffic, and played, of course, in my own opinion, the best hits in Los Angeles. So having gone on through life with college, careers, family, etc., I never got to do my radio gig. But cut to today, I am blessed because I'm able to do the Papa Jeff's America podcast with you, our faithful audience. And on Sunday, February 28th, that same Los Angeles radio broadcasting icon joined us on the Papa Jeff's America program. Ken Minyard and his son Rick, now known for Minyard and Minyard, do a podcast, graciously agreed to come on the show. So I was all ready to go. I had my list of bullet points, questions, jokes, because you know I got the jokes. But it didn't quite go that way. Ken and Rick are just so cool. We just had an ad-lib conversation. It was so much fun. Now, there might be a few dicey moments, so if you're sensitive, pay close attention. The Papa Jeff's America program, the talk radio podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. It is a sunny 67 degrees. We've unfrozen at the Talk OG studios in H-Town, Space City, Houston, Texas, the city with no limits. Houston strong and still standing. Coming up for us after the break, Minyard and Papa Jeff do a podcast. Next. The Papa Jeff's America program is on the air, anytime, any device, papajeffusa.com. Hey guys, welcome back to the Papa Jeff's America program. We have got a treat for you today. Actually, it's more of a treat for me, I think. These guys are not going to think it's such a treat after we're done here, but these guys today, I got to tell you, I was just telling them off air that I live vicariously through these two. Today, we have Ken and Rick Minyard. They're the father and son broadcasting team that host Minyard and Minyard do a podcast. And these guys have a lot of history. Ken having more history than Rick, obviously, from being the father and son duo.
Rick's
But
known me his whole life, though.
That's right.
He in some of it he admits to. That's true.
Yep, that's right.
Ken is a veteran broadcaster who spent 30 plus years in talk radio and lived to tell about it. He's best known for the Ken and Bob Show on KABC 790 on AM. For those of you who don't know what AM is, it's what iHeart used to be. You used to be able to actually turn on that thing in your car, that radio, and not go to a preset or not. Well, actually, we did have presets back then, I guess, but you didn't have to pay for anything, and you got to listen to commercials, and people talked, and there was really cool stuff on there. I know, Ken, you remember that, and I think that's kind of what we're still doing we're kind of trying to get back to that in podcasting a little bit. But anyway,
No. I don't agree. We don't get back to. Surely we won't get back to 18 minutes of commercials an hour like we used to do.
True.
I still don't understand how we got people to listen to us when we abused the audience by piling on 18 or during a political season up to 20 minutes of commercials in an hour, plus the network news, plus a sports cast, plus traffic reports. And, and people listen. We're number one in the market for many, many years. And I just still, when I think back on it, this little 5 kilowatt station in Los Angeles doing as well as we did, it's bewildering. So I know we abuse that was audience abuse. Podcasts I love podcasting, which I had never listened to until maybe Rick, 6-7 months ago.
Yeah, I kind of shamed him into it. He was
he talked to me for years, really. I mean, a couple of years. And I said, I'm retired, man. I do not want to go ever talk into a microphone again. And of course, like he always does, he wore me down, and I said, okay. And we started doing it, and now I really do love it. And I love listening to podcasts. The reason is that podcasts are the democratization of broadcasting. We can all have a podcast. We can say what we want. We can do as we please. Where it gets a little dicey, I think, is when you have these big companies who hire people to do their podcast. You're right back to the same
back into it
dilemma. You're having these suits tell you what to do, and the way we do it, and the way I think you do it, is we just do what we want to do. And I actually, to tell you the truth, I find myself working a little harder to do this hour or so a week that we do than I did when I did 4 hours a day, 6 days a week. In Los Angeles on regular radio. And there are hundreds. I've read anywhere from 350,000 to 1.5 million podcasts in America, only in America. That's crazy, but it's good because you can have a podcast for your homeowners association and people just on your block listen to it. If you want to. That's great.
It's absolutely good. And in my situation, and as I joke around, I live vicariously through you guys. I'm in the retired category as well. Come from several different backgrounds, always wanting to be radio, but never did. And went through I was a school bus instructor in Los Angeles for 20 years and lived to tell about it.
Wait a minute, what, a school bus instructor?
Yep, used to teach school bus drivers. And so,
I never thought of that.
Take the person that, used to drive nothing bigger than a Hyundai or a Honda or a Yugo and, put them in a 40-foot bus and say, okay, here's how we're going to do this. And taught a lot of folks and did that for almost, of the 20 years I spent in the business, 15 of it was teaching. And I actually spent my last 5 years in Compton. So I drove through that Florence and Normandy intersection, that famous Reginald Denny intersection every day.
Hmm.
And so that was, and literally lived to tell about that as well. That was an interesting part of my career. And then my wife and I, we relocated to Reno, Nevada. And we were there for 15 years. And then she suddenly passed away in 2017. And so that was a dark time. And remarried several years ago, now with Monica and her two teenage daughters. So we're actually starting a new segment coming up in a couple of weeks called Coffee with the OG, old guy. And what's it like to be married to an OG, to an old guy? So we've, two teenage girls, both in driving school, learning how to drive in Houston, which is just crazy because speed limits don't exist. And
buses, school buses?
No, teaching them how to drive school buses.
Oh gosh, I wish. So, I got in after that. What else did I do? Because we're here about you, we're not about me. But I was a paramedic in Reno for 10 years as well, and frankly, loved what I did there. Loved the driving fast part. That's about the only part that I miss of that. Other than I was able to take care of people and I did my part. But frankly, I lost my compassion filter. Because you're dealing with a lot of the same people every day, and said, okay, it's time to do something different. So I got out of that, and
I guess I'm the only one of this trio here that still has a day job. It sounds like
somebody's got to take care of us, right?
That's right. But as far as the doing the podcast go, I find myself wandering off during my working hours, mentally wandering around, thinking about the show, thinking about, that'd be fun to do. That'd be cool to cover.
See, my problem is
notes here. Yeah.
My problem is that I'll think of something like watching television at night, and I now know I have to make a note, because if I don't, tomorrow morning I won't remember it.
Truth is, Geoff, what he does is he makes a note via text or messenger to me, and it's up to me to remember it then for him the next day.
Okay.
Well, and I would probably do the same thing. Back in the Post-it note days, you couldn't see my screen because it was all bordered with Post-it notes. And now it's, you send a text or whatever, and it's, hey Monica, remind me to do this, would you? She's if you ever hear me talk about my producer, it's her. She rarely will come on and say anything, but oh boy, she likes to share stuff.
Hey, have you unfrozen?
Yes, in Houston. Have you thawed?
We have thawed, yes. And we're actually in a situation where, and I don't know if it was caused by this, but our of the two central air conditioners in the house that we have, the upstairs, which is where I am right now, air conditioner is not working properly. And I don't know if it's out of Freon or whatever happened. So we're actually, once we're finished here, we're going to check into a hotel for a few days because the air conditioner people can't get out until Tuesday.
Now, is it that hot already?
It's
that warm?
It's warm. It's warm, and it's humid. We have changed from the 20s where it was. Now we're kind of back up to normal temperatures. So yeah, whatever freeze that we had, and we're right back to hot.
But from what I can have been reading, you still don't have water everywhere. Is that accurate?
That's correct. There's still several here in Houston, where, in Southern California and in Los Angeles, anyway, it would be Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Here, every, they call them MUDs, MUD, Municipal Utility District. So everything, of course, being Texas, everything being independent, every water district is different. So I may be a couple of blocks over from the water district for the next neighborhood. And we here in Houston, all of the water is back up and working, and the boil water issue orders that were issued were lifted several days later. But there's still several million people, as of the last report that I saw, in Texas that don't have running water. And that's just crazy.
Are there calls? Have you been finding there's more people at least open to the idea of maybe getting a little regulation going and standardization and, the stuff that Texans have been averse to for so long?
Well, I think it's all depending on who you talk to as well. Living here in Houston, we actually live in Spring, which is just north of Houston. It's in Harris County, which is, the largest county in Texas, and Harris County is blue. And when you see on the news, if you happen to catch Judge Lena Hidalgo, she's our county judge, the
I've
highest,
seen her on TV. Yeah.
Right. She is amazing. She's only about 30 years old. She's
young.
She's very young for that position. She's kind of like a
Star on the
young
rise.
AOC,
She's a star on the rise. She will be heard from, no doubt.
Yes, and she is amazing. And Harris County is blue. And if you talk to the folks that I would talk to, yes, we do want to make a change. We want to get rid of this ERCOT thing, which from what I understand, Energy Reliability Council of Texas. Yeah, okay,
that's irony in the name. Huh?
That's a joke. They say we were minutes away from a complete meltdown. I believe that. But it's all that, Rick, as I was telling you off air, I'm from SoCal. So I remember the deregulation, and I remember the Enron, and I remember the rolling blackouts and brownouts and this and that. And
what I remember is folks from Texas and other areas kind of gleeful, poking at California when we were going through that, which my dad and I have talked about this. Maybe you can, here we are interviewing you on.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. I'm having a good time.
Maybe you could clear something up, having relocated to Texas, as a lot of Californians seem to be doing. Why is it, and Dad, you've got some thoughts on this too, but why is it that everybody who leaves California finds it necessary to bash California then? Is it just to justify their decision to leave?
I think that's a really good question. And I think I would say yes. I think it's I can remember even when we were going to come here. Of course, we flew here, my wife and I and my youngest daughter flew here to check out the place. I gave Rick just a kind of a brief thing where we came here. We call it Monica's crazy 7-day plan, where Monica had worked for 22 years at the company where she was in Reno, and it was time to make a change. And so we said, well, I wanted to get out of Reno because I was getting older and I didn't want to do the snow anymore. And we said, well, where do we want to move to? So of course, my wife, she's 14 years younger than I am, go Papa. She said, I'll put it out on Facebook and see what people think. And some folks had some different ideas, and someone came up with, well, you could transfer to Plano, Texas. And I said, I don't want to go to Plano because then I'd have to live in Texas. And I had to eat my words there, I guess. But she put it out, and one of her friends said, hey, we moved to Houston, and we've been here a couple of years, and they used to work together in Reno. And so why don't you come on out and we'll host you? And okay, long story short, we came out on Memorial Day weekend in 2019 and bought a house. And 60 days later, moved in. And
but you haven't been bashing California, right?
Well, I think it's kind of the jilted lover syndrome. People seem to the two most popular places from California to go are Texas, because you don't have any state tax,
True.
And Florida too. Do they not have a state tax?
I think they don't. I think Florida's. I could be wrong.
So
but I think
those seem to be the two most popular states. But oftentimes, what it is that somebody either couldn't make it here in California, they got fired from their job, or whatever, or they don't like our politics. And by the way, and California obviously has problems like any other state does. But then they get back there. Okay, understand it right up to here. But then why do you spend so much time on Facebook belly aching about how bad California is? We don't really give a shit whether you like California or not. If you don't like it, fine, just shut up. Go ahead and talk about how good your state. I'm not talking to you, Jeffrey, but I'm saying to those people who do that, fine. You don't like California, you don't like our politics, you move someplace, I hope you're happy.
I've got a friend, well, more of a former friend, I guess, at this point, who moved recently to Mississippi, of all places, because his son was down there and his
Well, they
grandkid.
really should not.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. But he's outside of Memphis, so it's in the part of Mississippi, I guess, northern Mississippi, where Memphis is really their closest big town, big city. But continually has to now suddenly a lifelong Republican, well, he is, but he's also a lifelong Californian who now finds it necessary to email me occasionally, just boasting about all things non-Californian and how much better it is down there, whether it's the SEC and college football, whether it's the fact that he can go shooting his guns just, half a mile from his house and hunting and fishing and all this other stuff, and that gasoline costs, a lot less and all that. And it's like, why? I never asked, why are you finding it necessary? You get what you pay for, basically.
Is it true, Geoff, that when you move into Texas, if you don't have a gun, they give you one?
Issue it. Yeah, it's true. They issue it at the state line.
They do issue it at the state line. Yes.
I think it's mandatory, isn't it? Have you guys ever watched, do you watch stream anything from Netflix where they show, I don't know, detective shows from Denmark or Sweden or someplace like that? If you do, you'll notice that they're cops. That you don't see guns. I saw one from, I think it was New Zealand or maybe Iceland.
Iceland. No, it was Iceland. I know what you're talking about.
And they carried the gun. The cop carried her gun in a box in the trunk of the car. And in order to use it, she was after a bad guy. In order to use her gun, she had to open the trunk of the car, call in to the headquarters, who gave her a code, and then she used a 4-digit code to open the thing box, and got her gun. I mean, that's how, and somebody having a gun in these shows is rare. It's considered, whoa, they've got a gun. And in Texas, if you only have one gun, that's rare.
It's true. I had my guns, of course, came with me from Nevada to here. And yes, it's true. They do issue them at the border. You have to have at least one. And everybody here freaks out that that's one of the things that the Republicans or the Retrumplicans or the GOPQ or whatever you want to call it is they're coming for your guns. They're coming.
They've been saying that for forever. That's another thing.
They said it after Truman. They said it after Clinton, after Carter. I mean, none of them took your guns, and there's nobody that's going to take your guns. That's just a way of deflecting the argument away from sensible gun control.
How long is that argument though gonna hold up? I mean,
you know what? It's how did it go this far? It's the NRA.
I don't see it going away anytime soon, though. I mean, they're going to continue to, if something works, keep using it, and it works for a lot of people.
Do you want to hear a statistic? There are 393 million guns today in America. 330 million population, 393 million guns. However, what's interesting is the number of households with guns in America has actually gone down by, I'm not sure of this, I think it's about 10% over the last 20 years. So what happens is you've got fewer people, households having guns, but the people with guns have more of them. They're building arsenals, which I think is actually not bad news because in the uprising, they're not going to go out there with 4 guns on them, or
well, how could you do it with just 4 guns? That's just how could you possibly survive?
And you'll be facing missiles. It's crazy.
The whole argument that they have to have their guns to keep the government from getting out of control. Not asking that very. Definite. Next question is how is my my handgun or my AR-15 going to protect me from the tanks and the missiles and the and the heavy stuff? But
the old saying, "Don't take a knife to a gunfight," right?
Yeah. Well, they've not. Those heavy duty Second Amendment types aren't always accused of being consistent.
And may I just say of our founders, rarely do we speak ill of them, but they really they didn't do well when they wrote the Second Amendment. You know,
Could have been a little
it
more
is,
specific.
it's so broad to people like me and I think Rick. When you talk about it, it clearly is talking about maintaining a regulated militia. It's talking about like the National Guard or something like
Yeah,
that.
people will. I love the argument. What do the words "shall not be,"
Yeah.
infringe mean? Well, what do the words
Yeah.
"well-regulated militia" mean to you? So
Hmm.
they didn't solve anything really with the way they worded it.
No,
You're right.
that was really poorly written. And back in those days, of course, you had your militias that in the Revolutionary War, it was fought largely by state and
Local
local
militia.
militias that got their, I
Well,
don't know,
Civil War was
flintlocks.
done in the Civil War too. Yeah, they'd call up the First Virginia, or Second Pennsylvania division.
Were they militias, or were they just state organized? They weren't. We didn't have a federal army, or did we? You know what? I'm in an area I shouldn't be
Yeah,
because I don't know what
yeah.
I'm
I
talking
don't.
about.
I just know in my study of the Civil War, they're always talking about the First Pennsylvanians or
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
right,
they were organized by state, but I don't
right.
think it's exactly a militia. I think they were more well organized
Maybe so.
than that.
Maybe so.
I don't
Anyway,
quite understand the militia thing these days. I mean, I
well,
do because I know what they're trying to do, and I know they're being used. They use themselves as an excuse to go around the norms and what they should be doing. But
well,
you
they're organizing, for a rebellion.
absolutely,
Well,
absolutely,
look
and
at what's going on in Michigan. The Michigan militias have gotten a
Mhm.
lot of attention in recent years, and now you've got them calling themselves what, Proud Boys and Boogaloo Boys and other things like that. So I think maybe that's a natural extension of those groups.
but I think when you talk about the those that were on January 6th and some that were former law enforcement and even some current law enforcement and former and current military and such, it's kind of frightening that your oath to the Constitution, et cetera. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here with it, but I interviewed, actually, I did several shows with a friend of mine who does a political podcast, actually a radio show in Northern California, and he just retired from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. He makes fun of that rehabilitation word in there, and he's definitely on the right and very much behind all of the it was stolen and all of that.
Oh, good Lord.
And that we had a talk one day on the show about militias, and it was back when the young gentleman was left the state, and they held him out of anyway. I don't remember the exact incident with it, but we do have to have militias, and because law enforcement can't always handle it. And anyway, all that to say that he's actually on that side, that yes, we have to have militias. We are allowed to have a well-regulated militia. Well, your well-regulated militia is the National Guard. You don't need all this other stuff. This is just an excuse.
Well, and yet, as soon as you try to impose some regulation, as in who can own the guns, he'll forget the word regulated even exists. So
Yes.
he
Well,
doesn't.
I don't think it's illegal what they're doing. I think it just requires a lot of attention, and
yeah.
because they can say we're just getting together to go out and have some fun in the woods and shoot some bottles and whatever it is that they say, and exercise and stay in shape and
Enough.
always be on guard in case of an invasion. But I don't think that's illegal.
Right.
I don't think that's illegal either. It just where it changes over into illegal is when they assume police powers
Sure.
that they don't have, and that's where it becomes dangerous. I think it is, like you guys had mentioned, it's the jilted lover kind of thing. I didn't bash on California, I don't think, although it's been a while. I can say that I bashed on Nevada when we got here, mainly for fuel prices, because Nevada was over $4 a gallon when we left, and it was down, I think, when we were coming over, it was down around the 99-cent range here. And it's, oh, look at this. And I remember sending Facebook posts and things like that. And now it's back up over $2 here. But
well, and it's kind of hard to bash other states for exorbitant energy costs when you're in Texas, now when we're seeing stories about $10,000 electrical bills,
and it's crazy. And that's all part of that deregulation. So our plan, which it took me a little while to figure out how you got your power here, and because they have the producers which sell it to which generate the power, which then sell it to, in our particular area, they sell it to a company called CenterPoint Energy. And then CenterPoint Energy breaks it out to a number of companies, one of which is Frontier Electric, and that's who we get our power from. And we have an annual contract that we pay X amount of cents per kilowatt hour. And because we have a larger home and a pool and lots of air conditioners and such, that if we use over so many kilowatt hours, it's less cents per kilowatt hour. Okay, cool. But it's never going to go over that. Well, some of these folks,
they tied theirs to the market.
Yeah, exactly. And so dangerous. You heard the story, and there's been multiple stories, but the one, a disabled veteran who got the $16,000 power bill because it was, I believe it was a company called Gritty that he was getting his power from, and they're going to end up fixing this because there's going to be lawsuits and there's going to be a mess. But
your governor and other state leaders have been awfully quiet since the big freeze. But
our governor, he's an idiot.
One thing, you mentioned your friend in Northern California who was militia fan and all that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
I've spent a fair amount of time up in the northern part of the state, have a second home up there, and there's a movement, particularly up in the rural parts of the state and the mountains and far north, movement up there to secede and start the 51st state, the state of Jefferson and whatnot. That's
been going on for
it's a bunch of crackpots. I mean, you see that whenever you see a supporter sign, state of Jefferson sign in a yard, it's always got multiple vehicles parked on the lawn, and I mean, it's a certain type of place, so we don't take them very seriously. But in Texas, up until recently, I mean, still probably you guys in Texas really are serious, or at least there's a lot of you who are serious about secession and have talked seriously about it, because apparently the rest of the country offers no benefit to you. But is that still a thing?
It's still a thing. I don't understand it, but I'm not. I am certainly not the constitutional scholar, and but they're missing the point. They want to be independent. I get that. And they don't want their regulation, and I get that. And they don't want Marxist socialist. Okay. But we all know the common sense is, do you drive on the freeway? Yeah, that's a socialist program. Do you use emergency medical services? Yes, that's a socialist program. Do you, all of that, we all pay in and we all take back out. And to say, well, we're going to secede because we're going to be totally independent. Okay. And obviously we saw that on what happened with what's left of our power grid, is that we don't get power from anybody else, because that would involve regulation.
That's socialism and regulation.
We can't have that. So now we've got still a lot of people without water. We had an 11-year-old child froze laying next to their mother in bed. I mean, that is just crazy. When the Galveston County medical examiner requested one of the refrigerated morgue trailers because they had 20 plus decedents. That's just crazy to me. And they miss the point here, my fellow Texans, even though I consider myself an honorary Texan. They miss the point that if you secede and you want to be your own entity, you're not going to have any federal funds, any federal anything. Can you make that happen without federal funds? I don't think so.
No.
I really do, but they don't see that. They just
How quickly would there become or would a state income tax be a reality out of necessity at that point?
I think absolutely, almost immediately.
Well, I'm sorry, Dad, but one of the other things is those same people who say, leave us alone, we want to be, Ted Cruz being one of them, of course, is now lobbying for federal emergency disaster aid and all that sort of thing. It's just the hypocrisy is, pardon us, but
I spent some time in Texas, grew up in Oklahoma, right next door.
yeah.
And, I used to, there was where did we go? It was called Lake Texoma, I think. Lake Texoma, is that right? It's right on kind of the border between Oklahoma and Texas. I think Texas has got a lot going for it. Don't like their politics, but, whatever. It seems to me that, it's just kind of a simple thing. If you're first of all, we had to take them away from Mexico in the first place. And, we did. And it looks like they could appreciate being a part of this union. You're always tempted to say, fine, go,
but it's all, you notice how much there is a Texas versus California thing. There's just a chip on each other's shoulder here. Californians look sideways at Texas.
Well,
Texas,
and
of course,
in fairness, they also had to take us away from Mexico.
That's true. That's very true. That's very true.
People are big though with looking at California license plates, or do you have some type of California related bumper sticker on your vehicle, or there's been the Facebook memes out there that if you're thinking of coming to Texas from California, don't, or and I think that's one of the and this isn't just my opinion, but I think a big part of the power grid issue is not only, certainly it's the regulation issue that we're not getting power from any place else in case there's a problem. It's that it's supply and demand. It's that we do have people moving in here because the tax structure and such in California. Okay. And we didn't, in 2003, I didn't leave California because I wanted a different lifestyle for my kids and my family at the time. So we moved to Nevada and got into kind of the Nevada lifestyle. But then it just, the whole thing just kind of became different. It's, I'm still consider myself, if I could go back to Southern California, would I? Maybe if I could buy a place, because there's just so much in Southern California to offer. Just everything is there.
Economically, it's easy to leave California, and particularly Southern California, going in that direction. It's a lot harder to come the other direction economically.
It is. I don't know that I could afford to do it. I mean, they have certain things that, the house that we purchased here for $250,000 would be in Reno right now would be $750,000 easy. And
really? Reno?
And what's happening is, and what was happening in the market when we left is that the folks, of course, Tesla was a big thing in Reno. They did a big thing, and of course, that's a whole issue.
Yeah, well, Elon Musk just he announced he was moving. What was he closing the Fremont plant, or he's actually not closing it, but that's what the word was, moving it to Texas. And now he was in the news after your big freeze of being pissed off about the power situation over there.
For a guy worth $200 billion, he sure seems to be in a bad mood a lot.
Yeah.
But Texas is business friendly, and Nevada was business friendly as well. You could go X amount of years without paying taxes in Nevada because they were trying to attract business, and so that would they actually had something when I was in the short time I was in real estate in Nevada, was they had something called the Tesla effect. People were going to move to Reno. We were going to have a boom. We were going to sell houses like nobody's business. Didn't happen because most of the people that Tesla brought in were leased, or they were brought into corporate housing that then they were only going to stay for a short amount of time. The folks that the actual rank and file at Tesla, lived in Reno. They bussed them out there from the city, and that the so-called Tesla effect never took place. And so I suspect that that's a big part of why he wants to even get out of there and to come here.
Apropos of nothing, but we are talking about cars. I recommend that you guys watch The Lady and the Dale. It's on, I don't know, HBO, I think maybe had it, and it's over with now, but you can get the episodes, I think 4 or 5 episodes. And the Dale was a car with 3 wheels. It had 1 wheel in the back and 2 in the front. And the lady it was a complete scam. The lady, she was a transsexual that had been in trouble with the law her whole life. And she was exposed by Tucker Carlson's father, a guy named Dick Carlson, who was a reporter for Channel 7, KABC television here in Los Angeles, later became head of Voice of America and was an ambassador to someplace. And he was the father of Tucker Carlson. It's a fascinating show just to show this woman. And I can't remember her name right now, but it's called The Lady and the Dale.
Elizabeth Carmichael.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Thank you. You just Googled that, didn't you?
Yes, of course.
He's fast that way. I used to be that way.
No,
until my vision got bad, which is actually what kind of drove me to the podcast thing. I'm more medically
one of
retired
those,
than anything.
This has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is that even? I never
that's
knew that was
probably that 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Does it really? Wow.
That's what I'm seeing here. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of that is audience rating. Audiences will love it, but I think the critics did too. It's really worth watching and fascinating.
Didn't your guest yesterday, Ken Davis, didn't he mention that he had interviewed someone from that or had some relation to that program?
I think you referenced it, Dad, on our podcast yesterday.
Yeah, I did.
In relation to, we were doing a thing on Tucker Carlson on our show.
That's right.
And then so his dad is the one then subsequently remarried into the Swanson TV dinner family, right? And that's where that's where the money for Tucker Carlson boasts about being rich.
Yeah, he likes it. He used to like to talk about that. Well, he's rich on his own now. He makes a lot of money. But yeah. But this you'll be. I didn't know that this Dick Carlson, who was described as a gonzo journalist, and he was pretty good, I must say. And I remember him after I watched this show, but I had no idea until recently that he was Tucker Carlson's father.
Yeah, well, he's going to be living that down. Assuming, is he still alive? Maybe he's
not alive. He is. He's interviewed in this show that I'm talking about, the Lady in the Dale.
Lady in the Dale.
Well, it'd be like Siegfried Hitler's dad or something, having to live that down.
Yeah, that's rough, isn't it? All the Hitlers, it's hard to, but you shouldn't judge, but
you got that one, bad seed in the family, and it kind of
Billy Himmler,
Seymour Stalin,
yeah, it just follows you around,
right? You can't shake the bad seed that fell out of the tree there, if that's a metaphor.
I wanted to ask you, because we just to get back to the original radio thing, from where you started, and you mentioned in the podcast yesterday that you started as a radio DJ, and that's kind of where everybody starts except for me.
Yeah, I started at 13 years old, and being a DJ then was different than we played a Rush Limbaugh piece when he was a DJ in 1974. But I was in McAlester, Oklahoma, 13 years old, and I was paid $1 an hour. Which was,
good money. That was real money.
Yeah, it was worth like $2 an hour.
That's right.
Now, I don't know what I want to look that up, see what $1 an hour was. But part of my job was to work. I work on weekends, and we had a prison. That's about all we had in McAlester, Oklahoma.
State pen.
Yeah,
the state pen.
State penitentiary.
Yeah.
And my dad used to work there. Actually, he was supposed to go some executions and didn't go because he'd worked on death row and got to know him and like him.
Yeah.
But I'm getting off the subject. They had a show from the state penitentiary, the Oklahoma State Penitentiary, every Sunday night, maybe. I think it was Sunday nights, and you would sit there and monitor it. And it was a country and western broadcast. The inmates had a country and western band, and we'd carry them for 30 minutes. It was a 30-minute show on Sunday nights, and I would sit there and ride the board.
Interesting.
And
they had both kinds of music, country and western.
That's
one
right.
particular night when I was there, high school kid, my folks had gone out of town, and I'd had a party at their house and hadn't gotten any sleep. And I went in to work, and I went to sleep during this broadcast. I woke up, and the half-hour broadcast, I woke up like 3 hours later. I was laying in a little studio on the other
Dead
side.
air?
No. I'll tell you what happened. I thought, oh my God, what happened? Everything was just what it was supposed to be. I think Paul Harvey was on or something. And I thought, wow, what? I was confused. The owner of the radio station had come in, found me asleep, not bothered me, and just let me sleep it out.
And put the programming on that you were
it was
supposed to.
all programming from the network. And, I survived that. He didn't. He said, yeah, it happens. And I had several incidents like that where sleep interfered with me doing my job. And they must have liked me because I passed each one, not just there, but also when I was in Los Angeles and doing early mornings. When we began, I just had the hardest time getting up. Mind you, I had to be at work at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't wake up, but I somehow passed.
Well,
muster.
some of it was self-imposed because, you were famous in your younger days in LA for, shall we say, partying. You wouldn't exactly go to bed at the hour that people that had to drive in from the suburbs and be at work and on the air at 5 a.m.
I'm afraid that's true.
Yeah, he would, Geoff, he would, be out late and enjoying himself and having a few drinks and all that sort of thing, and then come in on 2 hours sleep the next morning. His partners would say during the network news, when they'd cut away to the ABC network news, sometimes he would crawl under the desk and take a little 10-minute nap while the network news would come on, and then he'd come back and pick up the show after the network news feed. Cat naps.
That's a true story.
The great thing about radio is nobody really knows what's going on. What's going on behind the mic, but those on the other end really don't know.
Yeah, we did have some fun, and not necessarily those instances that you're talking about. It wasn't too much fun to be half dead and trying to do a radio show, but it was the good old days, I'm afraid, and I don't think they're gonna return. They don't have much in the way of local radio anymore. They don't have you don't have your your B League or C League. You have to. Where do they get their talent from? I started in McAlester, Oklahoma. Everybody I knew, my partner Bob, started in a little town in Kansas, and my other partner Roger Barkley started in Iowa. Little town, Oldie-Bolt, Iowa.
That's the farm system. That was the farm system.
That was the farm system
of the big cities. Well, I mean, we did this thing with Limbaugh yesterday. He started in Missouri, I guess, is where
he was. I forget
Cape
what
Girardeau.
his town was, but
Cape Girardeau,
he worked. Yep. He started in 1971, and it took him until they say, well, boom, he just happened, and he did. I mean, he exploded, but he'd been in the business 17, 18 years before that, not particularly successfully.
But it's ironic. He started at those little stations and moved out, and then he was among the key factors, of people who destroyed local radio and the farm system.
No, he was the.
Yeah, when he got syndicated, that became.
I mean, I can blame Limbaugh with a lot of stuff, but it wasn't his fault. It was the greed. It was the greed of the suits.
Right. And once they started syndicating, they found it was cheaper just to put on a show that was generated out of New York City in 50 markets around the country, and that cost 50 people their jobs.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I checked out the shortly after getting here. I wanted to see what the radio talent was here, and looking at talk radio, and other than some guys and gals that do local PBS stuff, there isn't anything, because when you look at the local talk radio stations, it's they're Fox affiliates, or they're a different kind of affiliate. And so, if I wanted to listen to Hannity, which I certainly don't, I would do that. But no, I'm probably one of those leftover guys that is interested in and believe in people are talented on the radio, not reading a script that someone put in front of you there. I mean, we all know the names, and Ken, you are definitely in there, but the names of people that did radio and actually had talent. You weren't sitting there and you weren't talking and you weren't reading a script. That's not what you did.
No,
Yeah,
he kind of pioneered a format that exploded on primarily FM radio, I think, and that morning zoo concept where you had the company of players, that came in and made. Of course, it got real silly, and Howard Stern, of course, kind of perfected it in his way, and still does that. But aside from just the syndication aspect of it, what is driving the final nail in radio's coffin is technology. I mean, we're streaming everything now. We don't, and TV is next, because we were talking about this morning, my dad and I, which we tend to do every day, just kind of see what's going on. And we are at a point now, and very soon we'll be at a point where in the old days, we would have to make our schedule accommodate the television networks, whether it's the programs we want to watch, the shows, or the news, 6:00 news when it would come on. We'd have to be there in front of the TV when it came on. Well, nowadays, and pretty soon, they're going to accommodate our schedule. We can do it now with DVRs and recording everything, but pretty soon everything's just going to be on-demand programming, and that's the way it pretty much is already.
Yeah, and you're right. The technology. I mean, ever since satellite radio came into being, it was you could see the abysmal future of terrestrial radio, because you've got everything now on the satellite that you could want, including liberal talk, conservative talk, middle of the road talk, every format of music that you can imagine without commercials. I mean, how can you compete with that?
Well,
really?
You can, and you hit the nail on the head. Nobody's going to sit through 18 minutes or 20 minutes of commercials in an hour anymore. That I get annoyed when I can't fast forward through the commercials on a recorded program off my DVR. Sometimes they block your ability to do that. And we were watching something last night, my wife and I, and she said, fast forward to the next segment. And I said, I can't. It's telling me I can't. So, we're already there. The advertiser's going to have to find other ways to creep into our lives.
So you guys are doing your podcast now. Minyard and Minyard do a podcast, and I get a kick out of sometimes the endings. It's okay. Minyard and Minyard did a podcast, and okay, we're done.
Yeah, what are
you guys planning from here? Obviously, you want to continue to do that, and we want you to continue to do that. I know that's what I'm hearing from. I've been able to make a lot of new friends from you guys' community of friends
on Facebook.
Yes, from that, and I'm new Facebook friends with a lot of folks from your broadcasting life and friends of friends, and it's really been able to expand my sphere.
The biggest challenge is, and it kind of drives me nuts, is people who say, I don't know how to do I don't know how to get a podcast. And I want to say, what are you, an idiot? I mean, it's just as simple as turning on a radio, turning on a radio station. It's hitting boom, and you're there. And that's a big obstacle to overcome, because let's face it, we got a lot of older people that we are communicating with, which is fine. And they just don't like to try new stuff. And that's the biggest challenge to get people to check out podcasts. I listened to the Obama Springsteen podcast the other day, and as you would expect, it'd be pretty good, particularly when when Springsteen does a couple of his songs. But um, they have commercials now. It's Obama's company that is producing this podcast, and he has to do a commercial for a razor blade outfit that shaves your balls.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a little more careful to they just say those unmentionable part. But I mean, it's just disconcerting to think that the former, a guy
that's a peeve of mine too. In listening to podcasts, I listen to a lot of them, and very prominent people. There's something about I don't know, hearing James Carville break from a serious thought on politics to start talking about a yogurt drink that they're promoting and how wonderful it is, and you got to try it. It's just it doesn't work.
Well, but that's Carville. I must say, neither Springsteen nor Obama do a commercial.
Good.
Somebody
Thank
else
you.
does.
Thank you.
But my point is, these guys obviously don't need the money. Do they have to have sponsors on there? And it's not much. I mean, it may be 1 or 2 minutes in an hour long broadcast, so it's not. It's not hard to take, but why? I just think
that's the formula. That's the formula that some production costs or something. They have to.
I'm sure about what production costs. And
we know what you can do with no budget for sure.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Yes.
Yeah, and you can produce a reasonable product that way. You asked what are our plans? We don't know. We don't know what we're doing from one week to the next. Quite honestly, Geoff, we just kind of talk about it during the week. Hey, this might be fun to talk about. Sure. But by the time you get to the end of the week, we're just doing it once a week. Something else has come up and it's old news. The pace of news and whatnot these days is so fast that often, by the time we're going on the air, we're putting the finishing touches on our thoughts. And most of the time we don't have a plan. We just kind of wing it and see where it goes.
Survival. That's top of my list.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm, we used to say in paramedicine, we used to say above ground and above room temperature. So I'm happy with every one of those that I can get.
Well, and our deal is too, and I think we talked about this when we decided to do it. As soon as we start trying to be something, do something more than we want to do, it's going to lose whatever interest we have in it too. We want to keep it fun, keep it interesting for us, and it's just whatever we want to do. And it's evolved. Our show's evolved, and it'll continue to evolve. And you said how we end it sometimes. Just we did a podcast. See you later. Yeah, that's kind of our thing.
Joe Rogan was allegedly paid $100 million for so many years to do his podcast. And people have asked me, they say, if somebody came along and offered you a couple $1 million to do your podcast, I say, absolutely.
Yes, I would put 18 minutes of commercials into that show if they wanted to.
No, I mean, of course that won't happen, but I would hope, honestly, that I'd say, nah, I don't think so.
You'd love to think that, huh?
But Rick needs.
Wait a minute, we're partners now. You can't make that decision unilaterally.
That's true.
Yeah, I think you'd have. That's definitely a decision you guys would have to make together. If they came to you and said, "Now, we want you guys to do this, and we want you to move to Austin, Texas," and
no.
You're going
no. You draw the line. Draw the line.
Yeah,
you draw the line. Okay, even if they issued you guns at the border,
I understand Austin is lovely, but it's the part that comes after Austin that we'd have a hard time.
But
with.
You could live in the same complex as Alex Jones and Joe Rogan. They're neighbors.
Yeah.
No,
there you go. Rub shoulders with the elite in this business. Well, that's the other thing is as soon as it becomes a business, that's what tends to corrupt it, isn't it? So as soon as podcasting becomes too much of a business for
that's true. But there's so many. That's where the fact that there are so many of them, obviously, you can't buy them all, and so it's going to maintain an independent. So it's by definition unregulated, and you can do what you want. And the problem is once you've got somebody paying your bills and paying you money. You are a supplicant of theirs, and I don't ever really honestly ever want to be that again.
Geoff, he's famous for, in the old days, he was known to butt heads with management, shall we say.
Yeah.
So he's that comes naturally to my dad. One of the things when we were first getting this, we first launched it, and of course we just kind of went for it and then made adjustments and tinkered with it as we went. But one of the things that I think my dad had hardest time with was old habits, and that is having to hit a mark, having certain, having a commercial break coming up, having the top of the hour. Well, and I remember, Dad, we were talking about it, and I'd say, we don't have any of that. You don't have to worry about that. We just talk, and when we're done talking, well, how long should it go? It should go until we're sick of hearing ourselves talk that day, and that's it. So some of our pods go, I think our longest has been an hour and a half or something, and other ones have been 50 minutes. It's whatever we want to do, and as soon as we lose that attitude that, hey, this is just something we want to do, and we're having fun doing it, as soon as we get away from that, I think it'll be time to hang it up.
Well, I know I'm one of the people that definitely appreciate what you guys do, and I hope you continue to do it for quite some time. I am one of your definite supporters, and I know there's a lot of others out there as well. And I thank you guys for what you do, and like I such a I know it sounds cliche, but it's a dream for me to be able to have you guys on and to be able to talk with both of you. You're both legends to me, and that makes that's a big thing to me. And
let me just mention, you mentioned Rick and Chatsworth High and CSUN, Cal State
Yes.
Northridge. Were you out there or what? How did you know about that?
I was born in Long Beach, and I graduated from Chatsworth High School in 1977. And
so did Rick.
So did I. And we were classmates. Yep.
Yep. And I was more on the business side as opposed to the sports side. I was part of the theater group on the stage crew side with
wow. Well, we had quite a theater history with Chatsworth High in those days, with Mayor Winningham and Val Kilmer, Kevin Spacey, who was known as Kevin Fowler in high school.
That's a crew.
We had a very talented theater troupe.
Very, very much. Bob Corelli, the teacher there, he was amazing. And it was quite a time. We had quite a few people in our class. And
did you ever watch Rick and his all city quarterback performances?
I did not, and I hang my head in shame.
Well, no, it's all right, because he probably didn't go to any of those theater performances.
Those were two groups that didn't do a lot of hanging out together, for sure. But those were fun days in the mid to late 70s in the Valley there.
No, it was great, and as I've told Rick, I go, with the radio thing, with KABC and those of us from Southern California remember all of the stations that were there, and no, it's good times. I know time doesn't move any faster. Time is relative, but it seems like, the older I get, it seems like time does go by faster, even though it doesn't. But I still remember the days back in Los Angeles, and I just, I'm reminiscing, and I digress because I'm an old guy.
I have, please don't call yourself an old guy in front of me. Okay.
Yeah. Or me. We're in the same high school class.
Yeah. The good way I've found for time to slow down is to have a pandemic.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah. Of course, I don't know. Are you guys in Texas pretty locked down?
Do they acknowledge that there's a pandemic in Texas yet?
No, I mean, how locked down are you? Are your restaurants open? What's the
restaurants,
deal?
to my knowledge, are open at 50% capacity. Initially, it was, this can't be real. And then Harris County, we became a hotspot very early on, and Judge Hidalgo was on the news all the time. Her and Mayor Sylvester Turner from the city of Houston. And we locked down. I mean, nothing was happening. And
But that was a year ago. I mean, that was literally 9-10 months ago, right? Early in the pandemic. Yeah.
And now things are different. Where I believe it's at 50% capacity. I don't know about bars and clubs. I haven't really followed that, but testing is still a problem. The vaccine is coming. We've had some vaccine here. Ken, I know you've had 2 shots now, if I'm following that correctly. And
Pfizer.
we are, my wife and Rick, I'm 61, so I'm not in that 65 or older, the 1B group here in Texas, but I am, because of underlying conditions, I will be in the second group, and my wife the same way. We're in the database with the county, and so we're just waiting on the on that happening. But
yeah, what's the attitude generally toward masks in Texas? Do you have your resistors, of course, like everywhere else?
Of course.
What's the prevailing attitude?
Overall, everyone is cooperating with it. People, it's a Texas thing. Again, in a blue county, people they just want this to go away. And I don't know that we have that many people that are double masking, because they can't really make up their mind of what's going on with that. And of course, we have one of the national experts. You've probably seen him on the news, Dr. Peter Hotez. He comes on MSNBC almost every day. He's here, and he's one that we definitely watch of what's going on, and it's definitely real. I think overall people want to go for it. There's always a few. You always have those that are going to walk in and they don't want their mask and whatever. But I think overall we have good compliance. You
can literally make a snap judgment on a person's politics these days based upon whether they have a mask on or not.
Exactly.
I guess I can go without mask when we take our walk, because I've had both shots, but I still wear it. For one thing, I just think it's a good example to set. And I don't feel comfortable not wearing a mask for what you just said, Rick, because I'm afraid they'll think I'm
yeah, exactly. I thought of that too. I've thought of that too. So we've got masks positioned in our vehicles and at the front door and at the back door and all that. So we just grab it when we exit. It's not that hard, but
there are still, I'd say when we walk, I'd say half the, and truthfully walking, when you pass by somebody, it's outdoors. It's no big deal, but I'd say half the people are not wearing masks. I don't get much out into the stores. Jackie has to do that, and she says that it's not bad. And of course now they've done something that they'll probably, I hope, stay with after we get back to normal, if we ever do, and that is you can order groceries from your supermarket, or you can order and then stop by and pick them up, and they'll have a place for you to do it. And I think that's a good idea.
I don't think we're ever going back. I'm, like I said, I'm one with an actual day job here on this conversation, and I predict that the workplace has forever changed by and large.
Work from home a lot, huh?
Work from home, technology, Zoom has of course changed our lives. If you're still working, and even if you aren't, you're staying in touch with family and friends.
And Rick, in case you don't know, Rick is in the phone business, the technological end of it, and your business is actually picked up from people who have moved whole systems into their homes, right?
Yeah, well, technology allows for it nowadays, and we build telecommunications networks and systems for businesses and all that. But one thing I wouldn't want to have investments in right now is commercial real estate in urban areas, because
did you guys see Zillow? What's the deal there? Zillow, I just saw the headline, so I don't know the details. They've offered to buy anybody's house at their estimated value on Zillow.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have not seen that. I knew back from my real estate days that the Zestimate, as they used to call it, I don't know if that's still what they call it, but it was
on NBC.
They even admitted that it was historically off one way or the other.
Yeah, I thought so too, but I heard the headline. I got to look it up, but I heard the headline on NBC News last night that Zillow is offering to buy the house for the estimated value.
I am already all over this story. Zillow is making offers. I've got stories out of the Twin Cities. I've got here's a Fox Business story. Zillow is making cash offers on houses using its Zestimate home value tool.
Wow.
So if you go on Zillow and get a Zestimate, theoretically they will
Pay what their estimate is.
They will give you an offer based upon that.
I guarantee there's something we aren't knowing about that.
Honey, check our Zestimate on Zillow.
Yeah, there's something. There's some. See, you guys are coming to Austin. You just don't know it.
Yeah,
You got to think if they're willing to pay anybody what they offer, you can get a better price than that.
Cash offer. They're offering cash offers to qualifying homes. There's some qualifying things. So
we're gonna have to look in. I'm not selling my house anyway, but
there's got to be some algorithmic anomalies there somehow.
Well, it says qualified home. So there's the thing we got to look into. What designates a qualifying home?
Yeah, we'll get back to you on our podcast next
20 major cities, by the way. Here it is. Arizona, North Carolina, Florida, Oregon, Colorado, Tennessee, California, Texas, Nevada, Georgia, and Minnesota.
Yeah, in cities or
in cities, in 20 major cities, including those places. Yeah. So it's not everywhere. It's if you're going to have to fall into some kind of, so they obviously know something or think they know something, but again, there's estimate controls at all. So if their estimate on their website, they're not going to lose money on this, clearly.
No, I would agree with that.
I mean, if they can buy it, and they obviously plan to buy it and resell it, and they're planning.
Well, let's face it, selling a house is a pain in the ass. So if they can take some of that pain away, and it might be worth considering for sure. Just get a cash offer. You don't even need to go to a car dealer to buy a car anymore. You go online, they drop it off at your house.
Drive through. Yeah. You just call them and order it, and they deliver it to you.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys mentioned, having the point where they can deliver your groceries and whatever. I haven't been to the store except for in early pandemic times. We have the groceries delivered. We just,
we just yesterday we go online, shop. The online portals are wonderful. You can select your things. They have a shopper do the shopping for you, and we go by and pick it up. In some cases, in other cases, we'll have it delivered. But it's
I cannot get Jackie to do that. I mean, we do it a little bit, but she insists on going to the store because I don't need that much. Just a couple of things. And I said, Jackie, just and I can't. I give up. But she's very careful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think, Guy. By the way, I just wanted to mention, Geoff. We're doing this on Zoom, and we don't have the video. We have we have a little American flag with you in the front, of caricature. Looks, maybe it's my eyes, but it looks like, and your right hand, you're giving me the finger.
Boy, I'm gonna have to check my background on there now.
But on closer inspection, it's the thumb.
He's giving you 2 thumbs up there. Yeah.
That shows the reason my wife mentioned that. Are you sure that's what that background is? See, that's Zuckerberg. No.
Well, this has been fun, Geoff. Thanks. Good reminiscing and appreciate the invitation.
Thank you guys so much. You guys are both amazing. We certainly appreciate you. We hope you guys will come back.
Good luck to you, Geoff, and your ordeal in Texas.
And we'll see you on Facebook, huh?
Absolutely, guys. Take care. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next time.
Right.
Thanks for joining us today for the Papa Jeff's America program. Check out more episodes of the Talk Radio podcast at papajeffusa.com. You can subscribe through the link on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all the major platforms. papajeffusa.com is your home for everything Papa Jeff. Anytime, any device. And while you're there, you can check out more episodes of the broadcast, check out the OG Corner, get in contact with us, and you can easily link to all of our social media. We do want to hear from you. Your thoughts, comments, and suggestions are what make this program happen. So send us an email on our website, papajeffusa.com. Please help us to get the word out and share our broadcast on all of your social media, because sharing is caring. And speaking of caring, if you'd like to help us coffee up here at the Talk Radio Podcast, give a click to the Buy Me a Coffee link. You know how much Papa Geoff loves his coffee. Hey guys, remember to wear a mask if you're going out. Practice that social distancing. Wash your hands frequently. Get the vaccine when it's your turn. And let's all do the right thing and take care of each other. Remember, disagree doesn't mean dislike. We're all in this together. Thanks again for joining us, and bring a friend with you next time. We're looking forward to seeing you next time on the Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time.